Hello, and welcome to Mythic Spotlight Naga. To be honest, when I thought about making this video, my information of this being was lacking, and most of my knowledge was based on the creatures found in World of Warcraft. After researching this topic, I found that they have a fairly deep, interesting story. I'm a little hesitant to place these beings in the mythic category, since many people do believe that they exist outside the legends. As previously mentioned, these creatures have been found in many video games as well as movies, but what really are they? These beings are found in primarily Buddhist, Jainism, and Hindu mythology, but there possibly is a tie to another famous culture that I'll get into later. These beings are viewed as deities that, much like the jinn, can inhabit both the spiritual plane as well as our own line of existence. The Naga are described as being very beautiful and can turn into the full form of a snake as well as that of a human. Consistently, the beings are seen as having human torsos and a snake lower half. The females are known as Nagais or Naginis, and both male and female sexes have been known to take human form to marry human beings. With that said, there are a few Indian dynasties that claim to have been descendants of the Naga. Not only are these beings known for being very beautiful, but they are also incredibly strong and have an almost supernatural amount of intelligence. Let's not also forget that they seem to have mastered immortality. According to some legends, these beings were the first living creatures on Earth, and when their numbers became too great, the Hindu god Brahma banished them to live in the sea. There have been multiple stories that mention the Naga, such as the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, although the earliest writings paint a different picture as to the intent of these creatures. While they are commonly thought of as helpful or benevolent, unless provoked, other stories state that they are both good and bad, with some more leaning towards the aggressive side when dealing with humans. It seems that more frequently, their intent is viewed as how human beings are, and that there are both good and bad of their kind. It is said that they currently live in two particular locations underground, one being Bhugavati, which lies under the Himalayas, and the other is called Patala, which many legends say is located in the Well of Shesha. In other versions, Patala is seen as the seventh of the nether dimensions, or basically the underworld. Within these cities, they are said to live in gem-encrusted palaces, where they also protect both physical and spiritual treasures. This race of beings are led by a king, which is called Vasuki, and is said to have a gem known as Nagamani on his head. What is interesting is that in Chinese and Japanese mythology, this king is talked about as well, but he is seen as one of the 8 great dragon kings. I always find it interesting when separate cultures reference the same being in their stories. I should mention here that while Vasuki is seen as the king of both Bhugavati and Patala, another being called Shesha is named the king of all Naga, in a way that is to represent the god, if you can say that, of the Naga. As mentioned previously, many different religions as well as locations around the area have their own version as to what the Naga are, but for the most part they all share a similar thread. In South India, Hindu women give offerings to statues carved to look like snakes and are viewed as Naga goddesses. The offerings are thought to bring fertility, good fortune, and protection for their families. In fact, in the area, if a person kills a snake, it is said to give them a curse known as Naga Dusam, which brings bad fortune and infertility. In Buddhism, the Naga also live on Mount Meru with other deities, and stories tell of them playing a role in Buddha's life. This is still seen with pendants and statues depicting Buddha meditating, while a snake with multiple heads protects him from the elements. Within this mythos, we do find that the Naga do have a formidable enemy in the giant bird known as Garuda. In some tellings of the story, Garuda is a single deity, while in others the name refers to a whole species of birds. Regardless of who is telling the story, the Garuda is the cousin of the Naga, and he or they, again depending on which version, prey on and only eat Naga. The reason behind the hatred for each other came because Garuda's mother made a bad bet and left her son a slave to the Nagas. To this day, Indonesia has an airline by the same name in honor of the holy bird. Outside of this, many people wear jewelry depicting this being, as it is seen as protection from snakes and their poison. In Buddhism, the Naga are in charge of distributing the rain, but it is said that sometimes they decide to keep it for themselves, until Garuda intervenes and forces them to do their job. I would like to jump back a bit to the previously mentioned Well of Shesha. This popular landmark is supposedly located in Varanasi, India. The reason I say supposedly is due to the fact that much about its true whereabouts isn't talked about. This structure has multiple steps leading down to a pool, which is said to be where the Naga live. In some stories, it is said that people have been known to be pulled under the water by these beings. The water is somewhat drained, but not completely, every 3 years, and a big celebration is held, but none of this is open to the public. Here is where things get interesting. It is said that the well is 30 feet deep, and at the bottom is a huge sealed door that has images of cobras carved into it. Not only this, but recent reports claim that a makeshift gym was built over the well in an attempt to hide it from prying eyes. I can only inform you of what I have found, being as how I can't visit the site myself, but if all of this is true, it makes for an interesting story. Almost reminds me of the tales of the sealed serpent door in the Swami temple. It is at this point I would like to point out some interesting similarities among other cultures. Without looking too hard, obviously mermaids and mermen seem to be able to fall into this category of being, outside of them not being deities. Along with this, many have pointed out that the Egyptians, who are fairly fond of snakes in their imagery, also have possible hidden Naga symbolism. The famous headdresses of pharaohs like King Tutankhamun, or Tut for short, depict a serpent, which interestingly enough is called Uraeus, which is the symbol for the Egyptian goddess Wadjet, who is depicted as a cobra. Being a paranormal channel, you knew I had to mention the fact that being as how the Naga are said to dwell underground, many people have linked them with the cryptids, or depending on how you look at them, aliens, known as reptilians. Regardless of all the previously mentioned information, it is interesting to note that with so many cultures referencing the same similar being, that maybe these creatures aren't just found in the pages of mythology, but were or are real. I would like to point out that there is a phenomenon known as the Naga Fireball, which can be seen on the Mekong River, which is located in Asia. For years, people gathered to see the unexplained light show, which seems to happen in late October after the Buddhist Lent. Red fireballs ranging in size from small to basketball size rise from the river and float off into the sky. During the night, anywhere from 10 to 1,000 lights can emerge. The whole event is named after the Paya Naga, which is said to be a Naga-like serpent that has lived in the river for centuries. I have tried very hard not to make this topic confusing or disrespectful for anyone who follows the religions tied to the Naga. If anything is messed up, please let me know, but when dealing with a topic that has multiple, sometimes conflicting, versions, it can become difficult to present something that is complete without being too hard to wrap one's brains around. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.